Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case Notes, file number 232, written by JackeySparrow, A Glitch of Light. A few weeks ago, my girlfriend and I were driving back late at night from the carnival. The particular road we took was empty, as it usually is in that part of the country. There's no lights at the side of said road, and it was foggy. While we were driving, a sudden single light pops up behind the car, maybe about a kilometer away, moving closer at a very fast pace. I said to my girlfriend, that motorcyclist is very brave. He's moving fast. She looks around and she says, yeah, he is. At about 500 meters, maybe closer, he suddenly steers off to the right, which was odd because there was no exit, just a straight road with forest and a ditch on both sides. Thinking he had an accident, we stopped and drove to where the light disappeared. The grass seemed as if someone actually did go through, but no one was to be found. Being an abandoned part of the country, we didn't feel like we should be going into the forest because we seriously could get lost in the dark. And besides, if someone did have an accident, they'd be in the ditch or the grass behind the ditch. We just shrugged it off and went on our way. Not even a minute later, the light appeared again, this time entering from the left and moving even faster. When the light was very close, I couldn't see it in my mirror anymore, like it should be at a dead angle. I looked to my left where it should have been, and nothing was there. My girlfriend was seriously freaking out and said to not stop no matter what. We didn't encounter any more strange lights that night. Case file number 233, written by MyHomeOnWhoreIsland. Glitch in the Waitress. I was just telling a friend this story today and thought to also post it here, so for your glitching pleasure, here we go. About 5 years ago, I was serving at a Greek diner. One slow night, I see a woman walk in, about 50 years old, with a little boy tagging along behind her. He looked about 10, with a yellow shirt. I saw them head to a table, so I stood behind the bar and started pouring water to bring over. The kid was about the right age to be too old for kid cups, so I casually asked the other server working, "Hey, Nicole, you think that little guy is big enough for an adult cup? Or should I bring a kiddie instead?" Nicole looked up at me, confused, and said, "What little guy?" "Well, that little boy that came in with the lady over there. I glanced over and now she's seated, alone." "She came in by herself," said Nicole. "No, I saw him. He was about yay high, yellow shirt, maybe 10? She looked at me again and said, "Okay, now you're creeping me out. She came in alone, I swear. There is no little boy." I was shocked, folks. I asked Nicole to take the table for me. Part of me wishes I had told the woman, but I was afraid she'd think I was nuts. Hell, I thought I was nuts. I swear on all that is holy, I saw that little boy, just as clear as anything. He was there, and then he just wasn't. Case file number 234, written by The Man, The Beard. A door forced open by itself. When I was a teenager, my family lived in a big 115-year-old brick house. Plenty of creepy stuff happened, but one night I was heading to bed when the door between the first floor kitchen and the basement stairs absolutely slammed shut. It had a unique sound that I recognized immediately as a kitchen/basement door. There were no windows open that could have caused a draft. Our dog was asleep on the second floor. I was on the second floor. My parents were both asleep on the third floor attic, which had been converted to a master bedroom. None of us could have shut the door. Now I'm freaking terrified. I worked up the courage to go investigate, carrying my hilariously teeny pocket knife for protection. As I went downstairs, I turned on every light. When I reached the kitchen, the door was wide open. Even more freaked out, I ran back up to bed, leaving the lights on. A minute or two later, I heard a definite, "Shh, okay," from downstairs. I laid in bed and was ready to accept my demise. Eventually, I somehow fell asleep, and in the morning, I was there first, downstairs. I woke up before my parents and our dog, and found that the lights were all off and the basement door had been shut again, but nothing anywhere was stolen. If you're enjoying this video, consider giving it a like. Now on to the next story. Case file number 235, written by Watermelly3. Freeze, sucker! Now press play. About 2 years ago, I went to collect my husband from the ferry after work. My husband got into the car, and as I was driving very slowly out of the car park, we both noticed two people standing a few meters in front of our car. It looked as though they were strangers, older-looking professionals, both walking to their separate cars in different areas of the car park. The man was reaching into his side bag, and the lady was further ahead than the man, with her head turned to the right. I know the exact positions they were in, because they were completely frozen on the spot. My husband and I sat there watching the frozen strangers, not saying anything to each other, and then all of a sudden, it was like someone pressed play, and the two strangers just continued on like nothing had happened. My husband and I promised each other that we would never forget how weird the experience was. I can't remember exactly how long they stayed frozen like that, but it was long enough to freak us both out. Bonus file, written by Fright Yagami, a stalwart defender against evil. I grew up in an 8-bedroom farmhouse with my dad until I was old enough to move out. We always had extra rooms not being used, and because of the age of the house plus all this extra space, there was always an eeriness like someone was looming in the shadows. If I had to get a drink in the middle of the night, I looked at the ground the whole time because I was scared of what may be looking back at me from the dark corners, rooms, and hallways. Even the windows and mirrors were avoided because I wasn't sure what I'd see looking back at me. When I was around 12 years old, I questioned why the room that used to be my nursery was locked from the outside. I didn't think it was weird before then. My dad needed a room for storage, and I figured he just wanted to keep me out, for whatever reason. I brought it up to him one day, asking what's so important in there that he needs to keep me out, even though I'm not a child anymore. Typical 12-year-old mentality. Turns out that I was not entirely correct about the lock. My dad, with a very serious demeanor, sat me down and answered my inquiry. When I was a baby, 1 to 2 years old, I slept in this nursery room on the second floor, next to my dad's room. This room was painted by my sister, especially for me, with Winnie the Pooh characters and fluffy clouds, the type of thing I think back on and appreciate. The effort and creativity was so admirable. I have a photo of me smiling at Pooh Bear on the wall while we were setting it up, but I'm not the most tech savvy to figure out how to link this photo. Anyway, I was in this nursery in my crib, again right next to my dad's room, the perfect age to be on my own. Every night though, my dad was woken up by me screaming and crying. He had raised 4 children before me, so he was not making first-time parent mistakes that would otherwise be in question. He thought it was probably the switch to being in my own room rather than being in his room that caused my nightly discomfort. He considered bringing my crib back into his room, but of course the nursery was all ready to go. I had just graduated to it. For a while when I cried in terror, he would come in and check on me, only to find that nothing was wrong in the sense of present stressors like temperature, diaper change, hunger or thirst, etc. He would stay with me until I fell asleep or keep the light on to make me feel safer, and then return to his room to get some actual rest. One night, after finally having enough of my distress, he decided to camp out on the floor of my nursery to see if he could figure out what was the matter, but mostly to try and sleep through the night. This was the last time anyone slept in there. I was able to doze off now that I wasn't alone. He, on the other hand, was tossing and turning on the hardwood floor, not comfortable enough to sleep. As he lay there on the floor, mulling over the situation, boom, 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 he was jolted to his feet by a few massive blows to the floorboards beneath him, centered directly on his back, as if someone on the first floor had a battering ram aimed at the ceiling. His first instinct was to rush downstairs and check for intruders. He is a man of logic, brave and ready to defend his family. However, when he got down there, the lights were off. There was no one downstairs, front door locked, windows locked, no sign of forced entry anywhere, and no one else lived with us. Our closest neighbor was down the road a quarter of a mile, and why would they break in just to bang on the ceiling, let alone have it mapped out where my dad would be sleeping in my nursery? And the force of the blows, this wasn't normal. After the event, my dad brought my crib back into his bedroom, and I was able to sleep without screaming or crying, beyond needing a diaper change or something normal. He brought the Bible into the nursery for extra measure, and casted out any evil that may have invited itself there. He locked up that nursery and only used it for storage after that, and only went in during the daytime. To this day, that old lock is still on the door, as if a lock will keep spirits locked in, maybe with iron. Short of pretending that experience never happened, he couldn't rationalize it enough to do anything else. We think that the entity was evil and malicious, and when my dad tried protecting me, this only pissed it off. As I grew up in that house, I had a hard time sleeping in any room on my own. Many nights I ended up rushing to the couch in the living room, turning on the TV and watching Disney till I fell asleep. But even then, I was not comfortable. There were always eyes on me. There were many unexplained events from the farmhouse, but this was the most direct encounter with evil my dad has ever had. Case notes, bonus 5. Well, I just wanted to say that your dad is a brave man indeed. A true guardian spirit, even though he was still but a man. In many ways that makes it more impressive than someone who had special powers, or was beyond the mortal realm, like an angel. He's the type of father that I hope to be one day.